Hey guys, it's JJ. Welcome back to the Texans franchise where we just finished season 3 and we sadly did not make it. We were the best team of the rest in the AFC. If we had won one more game, we either would have been division champs and had the 4 seed, or we probably would have had some tiebreakers over one of the AFC East teams. This season was a success, but it also was a failure. Davis Mills, he had very inflated yardage and touchdown numbers just because the defense was not living up to the hype in the first 10-12 games. But after a while, they figured it out. Also, a few interceptions in there for Mills that were unnecessary overthrows and stuff like that. The running game was very successful this year. We had a really good offensive line. Dameon Pierce had 17 touchdowns, over 1,500 yards, and only 2 fumbles on 319 attempts. Really proud of Dameon Pierce. Justin Ross, almost 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns. He came on really strong with the touchdowns in the last few games. And over 100 receptions. I love it. AJ Lincoln had also more than 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns. He was our man in 2-minute drills on all those corners and out routes that lead out of bounds. And then we had Corey Davis, 993, almost 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. He had a few big completions as well and lots of yardage on those post routes. And yeah, Diego Cordova missed 3 games sadly. So he did not make it close to 1,000, but 631 yards in 14 games is fine. 4 touchdowns for him. Matthew Thierry was in there when one of the top guys was hurt. He had 40 receptions for 36 and 6 touchdowns as well. Dameon Pierce had a little bit of receiving production as well, but I usually don't throw it to the running backs much. And Terrell Ridley, he had a couple big touchdowns, 146 yards. And Brevin Jordan, who was the man up after Diego Cordova went down, had 1 touchdown on 6 catches and 103 yards. And yeah, that's about it for the receiving production. I think we're on a good way with the weaponry for our quarterback, which is not going to be Davis Mills, but I'm going to be talking about that later. Sacks allowed, yeah, it's kind of a disappointment that both the Wirfs and Wills were our weakest links along the offensive line, even though they are our 2 best players there. But it's also kind of a problem for me personally because I'm not the strongest at getting rid of the football in time and recognizing when to just throw it away. I'm holding on to the football a little bit too long and retreating too far back in the pocket, which makes it easy for edge rushers to get sacks. Portillo and Harris were the 2 top tacklers, but there is a big difference between those 2, and I'm gonna be talking about that in a little while. Caleb Burgess and Redmond also had both more than 100 tackles, which speaks volumes about the run defense along the defensive line. Tackles for loss, Ryan Springs is an absolute monster. This is his rookie season, and yeah, he is just an absolute monster. Marcus Davenport also finished quite strong. Not to the same extent, but I think the second half of the season was a lot better for Davenport. And Matthew Ioannidis was the only guy along the defensive line, especially on the interior, that I was really happy with and run defense, and he had very limited playing time, yeah. Javon Kinlaw was disappointing, but absolutely awful was somebody else, and that's why I'm going this far down the list. I signed for a lot of money a run-stopping defensive tackle named DJ Reader, and he had a 1 TFL all season, and he had more than 1,000 snaps. I cannot believe that happened. When I went through the stats, I could not believe it. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. How is this possible? One of the best run-stopping defensive tackles in the game, just from a pure ratings perspective, and he's performing so awfully. Ryan Springs, 16.5 sacks. And if he had gotten a few sacks in those first like 6 games, I think in the first 6 games, he had like a half sack, and that's it. And then after that, he came on storming. 16.5 sacks is one of the top edge rushers in the league. Marcus Davenport had 11.5, which is okay. It's fine. It's not great, but the second half of the season was quite strong. Chris Portillo, I sent him in on a few blitzes for sacks. Kendall Sheffield was a really effective dime blitzer. Desmond King was a really effective nickel blitzer. And yeah, Christian Harris, also an effective blitzer. Matt Ioannidis is a run stopper first, so 1.5 sacks is very okay for him. I would like to resign him. Javon Kinlaw was not really there, I guess. But the other great breakout this year was Derek Stingley. 5 interceptions. We had Caleb Burgess for a couple interceptions there. But Derek Stingley, oh man, especially the second half of the season, man, Stingley really came on strong. And I love that Caleb Burgess in his rookie season had a couple picks and 139 tackles, which is a ridiculous amount. Alex Day had a couple picks. The thing is, Alex Day was so locked down this season, they didn't even target him all that much. Derek Stingley was targeted a lot more often, and sometimes he did not come away with the football. So those 5 picks also kind of have a downside. Jamie Cantu had 1 pick as well, and I love that. Yeah, it was exactly the game after the breakout scenario. Forced fumbles. How on earth is it possible that Derek Stingley, Caleb Burgess, and I think the other one was Christian Harris. Yeah, those 3 have 2 forced fumbles, and then Ryan Springs had 2 strip sacks. But like 2 DBs and a coverage linebacker have 6 fumbles combined. Or forced fumbles combined. And yeah, Kendall Sheffield had 1, and we also had 1 by Alex Day and Chris Portillo. Awesome stuff there. Let's look at the stats around the league. Top thrower is Aaron Rodgers with 5,228 yards. Davis Mills close behind. Also Tom Brady and Josh Allen over 5,000 yards. And Eric Bayless down there, 4,858 yards. He had the most pass attempts, and Davis Mills was just second behind him. Those were some awful defenses, the Lions and the Texans, and that's why they threw that much. Josh Allen led the league in touchdowns. Davis Mills, for that kind of number of attempts, 39 touchdowns isn't even that much. And then Bayless also threw 20 picks. We had Nick Norris at 18 picks, and Josh Allen had 17 picks. But if you throw 49 touchdowns, 17 picks doesn't seem that horrible. Also, Nick Norris had 48 touchdowns. So those numbers don't even sound horrible, but Davis Mills had 15 interceptions. Well, I think that's even fine, but a few of those were horrible overthrows. Dameon Pierce led the league in rushing. Ezekiel Elliott close behind him, Jonathan Taylor. Lots of elite running backs, but nobody of them was drafted in this series. It's just the old running backs. This is a well-known problem for Madden. Let's look at touchdowns. It's J.K. Dobbins, 22 touchdowns. Chris Carson right next to him, 18 touchdowns on only 105 attempts. This number is crazy to me. Nick Chubb had also 18 touchdowns, but on more than 2.5, almost 3 times the attempts that Chris Carson had. Dameon Pierce had 17 touchdowns, and I think he led the league in attempts, if I remember correctly. 319. Receiving, we have Cooper Kupp leading the league once again. Almost 1,800 yards. Stephon Diggs has almost 1,700, and John Ross close to 1,600. So those are the top 3 receivers in the league for receiving yardage. Davante Adams, Chris Godwin, DK Metcalf follow. And then Travis Kelce, the best tight end, at 1,311 yards. And yeah, down the list there is also Jamar Chase and Terry McLaurin. So not the biggest receivers, but good route runners, really excellent route runners with 1,300 yards. And for some reason, Drake London turned his career around. And also Laviska Shenault. It's kind of surprising that he had this kind of yardage output. And we face him twice a year, yeah? DJ Moore leads the league in touchdowns. 16 touchdowns on 80 receptions. Scotty Miller, 15 touchdowns on 66 receptions. And Amon-Ra St. Brown at 15 touchdowns on 93 receptions. Stephon Diggs had the most receptions in the league, I think, 120. And then Cooper Kupp at 118. Both of those had lower touchdown numbers. But they're both route runners and not like the big guys you throw to with the goal line face in the end zone. Defense, we're going to go to the AFC here. Chris Portillo leading the league in the AFC for tackles. Not solo tackles, just tackles. And also leading the entire league, not just the AFC. Also, Caleb Burgess is like 7th or 8th in the entire league for total tackles. TFLs, Ryan Springs at 26 is leading the AFC. We'll take a look at the NFC in a couple seconds. Also, Marcus Davenport, really solid against the run. Can't say anything about that. And yes, he did. Even over Aaron Donald, Ryan Springs led the league in TFLs. It is ridiculous. And Marcus Davenport comes in 5th, tied with like Chase Young and Quinnen Williams. For QB sacks, Myles Garrett 21.5, so he's a little bit shy of the record. Von Miller has 20.5. And yeah, if Ryan Springs just had a couple more sacks in those first games, he could have made it a tight race to the end. But 16.5 is more than enough for a rookie. He had even more than TJ Watt. And Aaron Donald leads the NFC with 18.5. But that's not really comparable to the AFC. The AFC was a slaughterhouse this year. I can tell you that right now. Interceptions. We have Sauce Gardner leading the AFC, and tied for 2nd is Derek Stingley, Shaq Griffin, and Roger McCreary, and Justin Reed, and lots of other guys. Marlon Humphrey, Trey White, and J.O.K. have all 5 picks. And then in the NFC, Jordan Brooks, a middle linebacker, leads the league in interceptions. It is ridiculous. Eric Kendricks and Bobby Wagner and Taylor Rapp also all have 5 interceptions. So that means all the guys with 5 interceptions are tied for 3rd league-wide. And that means Derek Stingley is tied for 3rd in interceptions in all of the NFL. Forced fumbles, we had one guy at 3. I was too slow to see who it was. But lots of guys forcing 2 fumbles, and lots of them are on the Texans. And that's our 2 DBs, and then Christian Harris and Ryan Springs. Now, let's look at some team stats. The best offense in the league, yardage-wise, is the Green Bay Packers with almost 7,000 yards of offense. We have the Texans in, I think that's like top 7 or something, surely top 10. And I think the offense was not really the problem this season. We have also a top 5 passing offense. We threw for almost 5,000 yards. This is yardage, passing yardage combined with sack yardage. So that's why these numbers are lower than the top quarterbacks in the league. And rushing yardage wise, the Texans are kind of down on the board. We had a one-dimensional run game. It was up the middle with Dameon Pierce, and we had basically no rushing attempts with anybody else. It was just the Dameon Pierce show. There was nobody else there, and that's why we're kind of down the league, but we were running the football efficiently. It's just a volume problem there. And then points per game, the Texans were up there. 28.2 is very respectable. I'd say. It's not a problem on the offense, but that being said, you have to put missing out on the playoffs. You have to put it on Davis Mills' shoulder. He almost lost the game against the, what was the third to last game? I think it was like the Browns or something. Yeah, it was the Browns and Deshaun Watson. He almost lost us that game, and Justin Ross had the ridiculous one-on-one catch with time expiring. And then we also lost the last two games because Davis Mills couldn't hit his receivers, his wide open receivers at that. And rushing wise, yeah, the rushing touchdowns are not up there. But I expect that to be changing next season. I think we got to run it even more. And I think that our defense should be good enough that we can allow ourselves to do that. First downs gained, the Texans lead the league by so much. It's not even close. And that is also hinting at a different problem. If you have lots of first downs gained, it means you can move the football. But it also means you don't really have the most explosive plays. It means you're working your way down the field on every drive, but you don't have the big 60-yard touchdowns a whole lot. I think we had a couple of those this season, but not really. Defense was awful. That's a bottom 5 defense, and that is why we had to battle around 500 all season long. And then in the end, the offense, well, Davis Mills gave it up at the end. We were 9-6 after 15 games, and in the end, it was the offense that was failing. But the first half of the season was the Texans had the worst defense in the league. And passing yardage wise, I think it wasn't even that horrible. It was okay. We can allow some passing yardage. We have a really good corner duo here in Alex Day and Derek Stingley. And apart from that, we had lots of coverage sacks, but the run defense was not up to anybody's standards. We were by far the worst run defense in the league, and that is really disappointing considering signing DJ Reader, Javon Kinlaw, and already having Matt Ioannidis on the roster. That should not lead to a worst run defense in the league. Points allowed, also bottom 5, doesn't look great. This is just not a great defense right now, but the second half of the season was promising for the defense. We finally got some stops and started to play some real defense and didn't have to throw it for 400 yards on offense each day to even have a fighting chance. QB sacks, we were up there, but also, as I just said, we had lots of coverage sacks. So the pass rush also needs to get a little better, but I think that Ryan Springs is doing a good job, and Marcus Davenport is also not a horrible edge rusher. Fumble recoveries, this year we were top of the league. That's top 5. And I actually kind of can't believe that we did recover lots of fumbles here. For interceptions, we are still not great. That's a bottom 10-ish accomplishment, getting 10 picks. It's not horrible, but it's also not great. And considering how much we played against weaker quarterbacks this year, we should have had a few more picks. Third down percentage, the Bill Belichick led Patriots are leading there. The Texans, though, kind of middle of the road, kind of below average. Not great, but also not horrible. I think next year this is going to be a lot better, considering we had Davis Mills overthrow so many receivers on third down, on critical downs, that I'm pretty sure we have a fighting chance there. Fourth down percentage, we are also kind of average, so nothing gained to be. Also, the sample sizes for that are really not that great. I'm not going for it on a lot of fourth downs. I don't want to abuse the CPU. You can do that, and I think you can get away with it most of the times. But I only want to go for it on fourth downs if the CPU would do it So I'm always looking on the recommended plays list, and if it tells me I need to punt or I should be taking the field goal, then I'll do that. I'm always doing what the recommended play says because I don't want to abuse anything. Red zone percentage, I think it's pretty awful. I mean, kind of average down the road on offense. On defense, however, we have the best red zone defense, the second best red zone defense in the league. And I could not believe that that actually is true. I couldn't believe it when I saw this the first time around. This is a ridiculous stat. And I honestly have no idea how that happened. But I think one of the factors is we had a lot of sacks in the red zone that made them take field goals or even pushed them out of field goal range. So I think that's why we have a great red zone defense. For turnovers, we have not a great turnover defense. We just don't get enough picks, and I think that Davis Mills' interceptions are kind of hurting us in that stat. But also on the other hand, we could have just gotten a few more picks. Like, we lost as many fumbles as we recovered, so that's not the issue. The issue is we can't collect more interceptions than we throw. And next season, I hope that's getting better with a different quarterback. Takeaways, 17. Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, I've talked about this a lot. Of course, if you enjoy this series, please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications whenever a video is uploaded. Let's look at the NFL standings. The Rams and the Colts are the two worst teams in the league, and both of them might be looking for quarterbacks. Might be looking for quarterbacks. The Eagles are the third worst team in the league, and this is great because we have the Eagles' first round pick. Last year, the Eagles had Tom Brady, and they think went to the playoffs. This year, not so great, and that's why this is great. We are gonna have the number 3 overall pick, and then the Jaguars are at 8 and 9, so they are gonna have like a middle of the road draft pick. Same for us. Our draft pick, our first round draft pick, is going to be number 17, I think. And the Panthers are the best team also in the NFC that didn't make it to the playoffs. So 2 9-8 teams that did not make it to the playoffs here. And this is how the playoff standings look right now. And we have the wildcard round finished. The Jets somehow upset the Kansas City Chiefs and move on. The Dolphins lose to the Ravens, whose first round pick we have. So the Ravens move on and make our first round pick worse. And the Patriots move on against the Titans. So first round Titans are already out. No AFC contention anymore. Washington Commanders completely beat up the Buccaneers. Same for the Cowboys against the Giants. So Washington and Dallas move on to NFC East team. And then the Seahawks win against the Bears. Seahawks win a very weak NFC West. Justin Fields loses in the wildcard round. The Seahawks. Actually, let's move on to the other side. We have the Bills beating the New York Jets 28-10. So no chance there for the two New York teams in the playoffs. Now the Ravens move on again, so our first round picks keeps getting worse. The Patriots put up a fight, but lose in overtime there to the Baltimore Ravens. And the number 1 overall seed, Green Bay Packers, lose badly to the Washington Commanders, and that is kind of ridiculous. Daniel Jones is the quarterback for the Commanders, and he throws for 4 touchdowns and no picks. Aaron Rodgers chokes away a number 1 seed playoff berth with 3 interceptions. Kind of ridiculous. Now, the Cowboys and the Seahawks meet the 3 and 4 seeds, and for some reason, the Cowboys lose to a very weak Seahawks team, 31-28. And we are moving on to the championship round, where the Bills beat out the Ravens to the Super Bowl. We have a 28-20 win for Josh Allen, who was the passing leader this season, the touchdown leader this season with 49 touchdowns. And it is a playoff berth, a Super Bowl berth here for the Buffalo Bills. Can they finally win a Super Bowl? As nobody threw any interceptions, but Josh Allen throws for 2 more touchdowns this game. We have not really all that much going on in the running game. Brandon Ayuk. I mean, the Bills spread the ball around. Ray McCloud, Stephon Diggs, Dan Arnold, everybody got in there. I actually don't know who really won this game, or based on what anybody won this game, because no picks, only 2 sacks, no forced fumbles. It was just kind of a regular game with not much yardage output, I guess. And the Seattle Seahawks actually managed, in a home game against the Washington Commanders, managed to move on to the Super Bowl. It is ridiculous to me. The Washington Commanders had more yardage output, but Daniel Jones throws 3 interceptions and costs his team the win. Greg Johnson, a second-year quarterback, goes to the Super Bowl on the rookie deal with a team that did not look like it was a Super Bowl contender. Greg Johnson threw 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. We had no rushing success all that much, but Rashard Winters, the guy I missed out on badly, had 102 yards and a touchdown to move them to the Super Bowl. I think this is it for Seattle. Tyler Lockett also had 91 yards. DK Metcalf had 48 yards. And all the touchdowns went around. Noah Fant had 43 yards, but 2 touchdowns in the red zone there. Yeah, Seattle was really successful, not wasting the football away. And also the defense kind of stepped it up. Najee Mitchell, a rookie edge rusher, has a sack here. And Donald Hearns, the second-year edge rusher, combines on a sack with Jamal Adams on a blitz. We have 2 interceptions for Ronald Darby, so he is the match winner. And then also C.J. Henderson has an interception. So that's why the Seattle Seahawks move on. They do not look like a contender in the Super Bowl on paper with their overall rankings, but they move on and they're going to meet the Buffalo Bills. NFC and AFC Pro Bowl votes. Nobody from the Texans is included at quarterback, but for some reason Mac Jones makes it. I can't believe that happened. On the other side, it's Tom Brady that makes it. So 2 New England quarterbacks. We have Dameon Pierce as running back 1, which is an absolute stud season there from him. We have Andy Janovich at fullback make it. He played a really great role lead blocking for Dameon Pierce, so I want to retain him. We have Justin Ross make it as the number 1 receiver in the AFC. He would have been the 2 because what's his name? Stephon Diggs would have made it for the AFC, but he's in the Super Bowl, so he's not there. We have no tight end make it. I think that if Diego Cordova would have made it to the end of the season, we would have had a chance, but we don't. Nobody on the offensive line makes it, obviously. Actually, that's kind of wrong, because somebody made it. It's Tristan Wirfs, allowing 7 sacks, which is kind of ridiculous. And Mekhi Becton does it for the Tennessee Titans, so the AFC South is here as well. And then we have Myles Garrett, obviously, but Ryan Springs is also a Pro Bowler. So that's some nice XP to get, and 16.5 sacks. Doesn't sound too bad now, does it? For the linebackers, we don't have anybody, I think. It's just it's an interception game, and we didn't have any linebacker interceptions from the 2 top guys. And for corners, I'm kind of shocked that we do not see Derek Stingley on here. And then we also do not see Caleb Burgess as a free safety. And he had 2 picks and 140 tackles, so that's kind of ridiculous. Kaimi Fairbairn makes it as the kicker 1, so that's some nice stuff, but he's in his 30s. He's not gonna win a whole lot there. And yeah, that's the Pro Bowl. Let's look at some awards. Josh Allen is the league MVP. We have Dak Prescott on 2nd and Aaron Rodgers at 3rd. Coach of the Year is Robert Saleh for the Jets, although they got thrown out of the playoffs pretty quickly. We have Stephon Diggs as the Offensive Player of the Year for the AFC, and that is kind of ridiculous to me, but I guess he earned it with almost 1,700 yards. Justin Ross comes in 3rd. We got Josh Allen in 4th there for the MVP voting. We have nobody else from... Actually, we did somebody else from the Texans have in there. We did get Dameon Pierce at number 10. So yardage and touchdown output was really worth it for him. For Defensive Player of the Year, we have Myles Garrett on top, Von Miller 2nd, Ryan Springs 3rd. So he makes it. He would not have made it in the Pro Bowl, by the way, if Von Miller wouldn't have gone to the Super Bowl, hadn't gone to the Super Bowl. But he did go to the Super Bowl in the end, so we got somebody in there. Theo Coolidge, the rookie quarterback, is Rookie of the Year for the Tennessee Titans, and we're going to face him twice a year. Number 2, it's Jarrett Patton for the Colts, so also division rival. And then Glenn Giles for the Titans as number 3. Our 2 rookie weapons made it in at 5th and 6th, but there is really not a whole lot to discuss here. We have Defensive Rookie of the Year, Ryan Springs, and it was not even close. After he stormed on the scene in the middle of the season with a couple 3-sack games and stuff, he was really running away with this award. And we have Caleb Burgess in at 5th, and we have Nick Bayless down there at 9th. I really liked him last year as a linebacking prospect, but then he went to the Titans a little bit earlier than I anticipated. And then we have Theo Coolidge at 2nd for best quarterback, and for some reason Davis Mills is in there. I mean, I guess he had a lot of inflated numbers, but he is never going to be a franchise quarterback for us. Maybe somewhere else, but not for us. Dameon Pierce is the 3rd best running back in the AFC, which kind of makes me think that how is he number 1 in the Pro Bowl, but only number 3 for the award? That doesn't make really all that much sense. Justin Ross is the 2nd best receiver in the AFC, right behind Stephon Diggs. We did not have any other Texans receivers make it. We did not have any offensive linemen here on this list, which is not surprising. It's just not an award that is numbered out really all that well. And but for defensive line, we've got Myles Garrett, Von Miller, Ryan Springs. Springs is really storming onto the scene here, I gotta tell you. And winning Rookie of the Year as a number 1 overall pick, I think that's well earned with 16.5 sacks. Obviously, we didn't have any linebacker here. I'm not shocked at all at this fact. And then for DBs, we have nobody in there in the top 5. Derek Stingley makes it up to number 7, and that's about it. He had 5 picks, he had lots of tackles, but and also 2 forced fumbles, I think. So I don't really understand how this works. Kaimi Fairbairn is number 2 kicker, and now let's move on to the NFC as Ezekiel Elliott wins Offensive Player of the Year, and that's not shocking at all, I gotta say. It's just way too good. Aaron Donald is Defensive Player of the Year. No shock there. Jordan Brooks is 2nd, a middle linebacker. This is kind of shocking, but he had 8 picks, so that's why. Kyle Pope, the receiver we faced, and we shut him down, man. This guy had nothing to do in our game at the end of the season, and he wins Offensive Rookie of the Year. Devontae Worden comes in 2nd. Alexander James comes in 3rd. And lots of other players that I don't really recognize all that much because we don't play the NFC all that much. But let's move on to Defensive Rookie of the Year, and it is Kevin Golston, which is interesting because Golston was the guy that was always mocked to me. That I would pick him up, and I thought that Golston was a good pass rusher, but not a great pass rusher. Another one that makes it in here is Brandon Burks, who also was somebody that I was looking at, and Spencer Noble also was on that list. I also was looking at him. Those were kind of my three favorite options, along with Matthew Starks. And yeah, best running back, well, it's Ezekiel Elliott. Shocking, you know. Cooper Kupp, yeah, best receiver, obviously, had the most yardage. And the offensive line awards, well, it's a lot of Cowboys and Buccaneers and a couple Panthers in there, kind of shocking. Best D-line, it's Aaron Donald, obviously, no shock here. Let's move on. Kevin Golston actually made it in at 6. Best linebacker, it's Shaq Barrett, Preston Smith. Micah Parsons only 4th, which is kind of shocking. Jordan Brooks, man, hit so many tackles and 8 interceptions, and it still is not even enough to crack the top 3 for best linebacker. Tracy Walker, he is actually that wasn't Tracy Walker. He was like number 3 or 5 or something like that. But it doesn't really matter. These awards are kind of not all that important, as Ryan Springs now is getting a little bit upgrades here, and this one is kind of a weak one. But he does have superstar development. Awesome, yeah? He got the upgrade here in Super Bowl week because he had an awesome season, and I think he's earned it. That is really what I was looking for in the number 1 pass rusher. Even though he was not the fastest, he's not the quickest guy of the ball, it's still a really great pass rusher. That combination of athleticism with strength and also some serious speed on the edge. Not really the best get off, but good speed. Really valuable, and 89 power moves right now with the boost. Yeah, another upgrade we had is Davis Mills. He gets superstar dev after a 4-year career here in Houston. Just when I was getting rid of him, he gets superstar dev. And yet another one is Dameon Pierce. No shocker there. That guy did some really crazy stuff in this season. Led the league in yardage and was like 3rd or 4th in touchdowns. And yet another player that really earned it was Derek Stingley. Gets superstar dev. I love it. Let's go. This guy's awesome. I think that he has got a bright future ahead of him. Now, let's look at the state of the roster. We have Davis Mills, and I've talked about this all season long. This is it. He's gone. He is not mobile enough, and he does not have a great arm, and he's missing too many 3rd down throws. I can't trust him anymore, and he was the reason we didn't get into the playoffs, so that's why he's gone. Dameon Pierce is going to enter his 4th season, and I think the depth behind that is kind of fine, but not great, and I might be looking to upgrade at some point. Andy Janovich is the fullback. I want to retain him. He looks really awesome. Still a good blocker, a good lead blocker for our power rushing game there up the middle. And then we have Justin Ross as the number 1 receiver. Yeah, no need to talk a lot about him. We have Corey Davis, who had a good season. He is 29 years old now, and I'm not sure if he's going to stay here for his entire 3-year contract. AJ Lincoln is a 79 overall, and he had a nice season. We have Nico Collins. This is it for him. He's going to be gone. Matthew Thierry is the rookie that I'm really hopeful for. He has great speed. And then just a couple backups, most important of which is Terrell Ridley. He's really, whenever he's on the field, he's open. You can throw it to him, he catches the football. We have Diego Cordova. He is our future tight end. I'm going to keep him, try to keep him around for a long time. We have Brevin Jordan as the backup. His contract is up, so he might be gone. And Tegan Kitoriano as the third tight end. We have Jedrick Wills. His contract is still in effect for a couple more years. And no reason to let him go anywhere. He is kind of a disappointment up until this point, but he's still young. He is entering age 26 next year, so he can still develop a little bit. We have Kenyon Green as the left guard. I was really happy this season with him. Had another injury this season, but also was really solid. Didn't allow a lot of sacks and pressure, and was a good run blocker. We have Eric McCoy in the middle. I think he's one of the better centers in the league. Gonna keep him around for a couple more years, I think. And then we have Greg Springs entering season 2 then. He is developing into a really solid right guard. Does not allow a lot of pass rush and is a solid run stopper. We have Trey Turner as his backup and mentor. He's probably gonna be gone. That was just a 1-year contract. And we've got Tristan Wirfs. I signed him to a lot of money, so he is not going anywhere. And I think it was like a 4 or 5 year deal, so yeah. We have Matthew Starks as an edge rusher. I think I'm really excited what he can do next season. He is really strong. We have AJ Epinesa, whose contract is now up. And so he is probably going to be gone. He didn't really show all that much. We have Marcus Davenport as an edge rusher. He is one guy to look out for. Still a great pass rusher. A good pass rusher, not a great one. A great one is Ryan Springs, and I'm so excited about what he can do in his next season. I'm really excited. We've got DJ Reader, the biggest disappointment on planet Earth. No, he was really a disappointment. I signed him to be a run stopper, and he was not getting anything done. He had like 1 TFL and 1.5 sacks. Ridiculous. Javon Kinlaw is also another signing I made last year. I think both of those were 1-year deals. And then Matt Ioannidis also. Ioannidis and DJ Reader's contracts are up. Kinlaw's contract is still valid for a couple more years, I think. And a couple more backups that don't really matter all that much. Both of them UDFAs last season. And then we have Jamie Cantu, who developed nicely this year. I think he's ready for a number 2 linebacker role behind Chris Portillo. We got Nick Abbott, who is a fine backup and plays the run sufficiently. The pass coverage might need some work. Chris Portillo is our number 1 middle linebacker. I think he's the future of this defense, and he has some serious speed, man. This guy knows what he's doing. He is running around and tackling everybody. He had 184 tackles or something this season. And then Christian Harris, whose contract is going to be up next year, I think. He is really not developing, and I don't really understand it. He also doesn't make a lot of splash plays, so kind of not really understanding what's going on there. Alex Day is our number 1 corner, and Derek Stingley our number 2 corners. Both of them are still under contract for quite some time, and on these rookie deals. And then Desmond King is the slot corner. His contract is up as well, but I want to retain him if his regression isn't too bad. He's a solid tackler. He can rush the passer on a nickel blitz. And we have Greedy Williams, who is kind of a backup to Day and Stingley, and Sheffield is the backup to King. And so I don't think I will retain Greedy Williams around. I think he might be asking for too much, but Kendall Sheffield maybe. Avery Saunders is a rookie corner that is going to stay on the roster. And that makes, by the way, Greedy Williams expendable. Even more expendable than he already is. And I like our safety room. We have a contract coming up for James Wiggins, but other than that, Redman and Burgess are both on rookie deals. And Jalen Petre is still 1 year away from the end of his contract, his rookie contract. We have Kaimi Fairbairn, whose contract is up, but if he doesn't regress too sharply, I want to keep him around. And same goes for Cameron Johnston, our punter. Yeah, and that's gonna do it for this episode. We finished 9-8. We have a okay season with ups and downs, with a kind of developing defense and an offense that I think just lacks one player, and that one player is a quarterback. We'll see how the offseason goes. That's gonna do it for this episode. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe for more Texans franchise. See you in the next episode. Until then, spread some love.